Dairyland, not data land.
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 Woo! And we can just go with no data center for a few moments here. No data center!
No data center. No data centers. 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 No.
All right, we're gonna do money for the people, not for profits. I'm gonna say money for the people. You're gonna say not for profit. Money for the people.
Not for profit.
Money for the people.
Not for profits.
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 All right, can we do people over profits too? How about that?
Yeah.
People over profits.
People over profits. People over profits. People over profits. People over profits. People over profits. People over profits. People over profits.
I'm gonna do one for our friend Prescott Balch. He'll like this. How do you feel about tax incremental districts?
Ooh.
How many of y'all know what a tax incremental district is? A few cursed people.
Port Washington.
Port Washington.
Beaver Dam.
Beaver Dam. Earlier this year, the folks in that building decided to pass massive exemptions so that data centers could receive more than the 12% funding limit for the project in tax incremental districts. It allowed for Beaver Dam to give Meta over $100 million.
Shame.
It allowed Port Washington to give Vantage over $450 million in reimbursement.
Shame.
What do we say to representatives who think our lives, our money, should belong to big tech corporations?
Shame.
Shame. Shame on the representatives that allowed that. We're going to tell them what's what. We're going to tell them no data centers. We're going to tell them to fix all of the problems they've caused in allowing these things to be built. They're allowing companies like Meta to pump and take the water out of our Great Lakes. And for what? So that our jobs can be replaced? Hell no!
Hell no.
Hell no!
Hell no.
Hell no!
Hell no.
Gotta get angry. I know it's a little complicated, but we gotta get angrier in this bitch. Otherwise, they're not gonna listen to us. Come on now! How do we feel about We Energies trying to stick us with 25% of the bill because of these data centers? How do we feel about that? How do we feel about Hawaiian Energies and We Energies in general?
Shame. Shame.
Shame on them. Every 2 years, We Energies comes to Milwaukee and Port Washington, demanding another 10%, demanding another 3%, sometimes over 20%. Shame on them.
Shame.
It's our money, it's our energy, it's our electricity, it's for residents. Shame on them.
Shame.
People over profits.
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 I want to send a special message too. We have mayors of local elected towns basically getting up in front of their city councils. You have city managers, often unelected, getting up in front of their city or village councils and trying to spin this stuff like it's a benefit to its people, the people of Port Washington, the people of Janesville. What do we say to Mayor Ted Knightsky and City Manager Kevin Lehner in Janesville?
Shame!
And that's not loud enough. For the people that are okay with polluting our Great Lakes, with polluting the Rock River, with taking our energy, what do we say to them?
Shame!
We say shame, that's first off right, you're right. But we also say, you are not welcome here, and you don't represent us.
That's right. That's right.
And it's time for the people to take back power in this state.
That's right.
Shame on you for lying to the people and telling people that these big tech corporations, these data centers give jobs, when they know full well, and the big tech companies that are putting NDAs on their tables know full well that data centers average 12 jobs per data center building. There's no jobs. For our hardworking union folks, I respect you. We want you to have jobs. But we want you to have the power to tell We Energies no. We want you to have the power to tell Meta no. We want you to have the power to tell Vantage, OpenAI, and Oracle no.
That's right.
We're going to build for the benefit of our people. We're going to build for the benefit of our neighbors. We're going to build for the benefit of Wisconsin.
That's right. That's right.
At the end of the day, power is the people. Power is for the people, and change is made by the people.
That's right.
No data centers.
No data centers.
No data centers.
No data centers.
No data. No data centers.
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 Woo!
Yeah.
I also want to give an open mic to anybody who wants to talk at any time. We're going to have speeches at a press conference in a little bit in room 400 Southeast. But if you feel like you want to talk, like you have something to say right now about data centers, feel free to come up and speak. We have plenty of kids here who may want to speak, or their parents, because it's their future that we're trying to protect. Whose future? Say our future, sorry. Whose future?
Our future.
Whose future?
Our future.
Whose water?
Our water.
Whose energy?
Our energy.
Whose energy?
Our energy.
Whose land?
Our land.
Whose state?
Our state.
Whose state?
Our state.
Whose city?
Our city.
Whose city?
Our city.
Woo! Yeah. So if anybody else wants to speak, you're welcome to speak if you want.
Go ahead, you go first. Oh, thank you. Is it this side or this side? All right, cool. Hi, I'm Ash. I'm a local artist here in Madison. I didn't prepare anything, so I'm winging this. And I actually did attend the village board meetings for the Taurus AI data center. So I was there and saw all the materials that these types of companies are providing for their residents. And let me tell you, they do not respect your intelligence. QTS does not respect you. Shame! They do not respect the land. The numbers that they give do not add up. They try to make claims on that they have no possible way of backing up. QTS had a thing on their pamphlet, multiple different places, claiming that they would enhance the local wetlands. Sorry, I should swear. Go for it. How would they possibly do that? By billing them in? And there's no way they could ever back that up. They're claiming that there'd be no water waste once they have their loop put up. I was sitting there with two engineers next to me, and they told me if that was possible, then that would be their product, and that it's not. leaks happen, where does the water go? They refuse to give residents any wastewater go. They're right on the Yahara River, and it drains right here into Lake Mendota. How is it going to affect places like Pheasant Branch Nature Conservancy? How is it going to affect, the waters here? There's people out there ice fishing right now, and what is that going to do to them, And they had answers to literally none of this, and that they don't respect you. They just see you as, a resource to exploit, and that we can't let them do this to Wisconsin. I'm an artist. I did a lot of my studies and that around the state, doing, painting and that, taking photos in Pheasant Branch, and that this is very personal to me, and we gotta fight back. We can't let them destroy our state.
All right.
Thank you, Ash. That was great. Shame on QTS. And guess what? Before Will speaks. QTS, losers. Losers! Yes. Boo! QTS found out firsthand what happens when you come up against Wisconsinites, just like Microsoft found out firsthand what happens when you come up against Wisconsinites in Caledonia. Big shout out. I know they may not be here yet. Trisha and all the people in No Data Center and DeForest who kicked QTS's ass. And we're gonna keep kicking ass around the state. Vantage gone. Get out of Port Washington.
Yeah.
That's right. Viridian, get out of Janesville.
That's right.
Meta, get out of Menominee and Grant County.
Yeah.
Wisconsin is not for big tech. This time is over for you. It's about the people. I'm going to give someone the mic now who feels really strongly about the people, too. Will, it's all yours.
Hi, everybody. My name is William Walter. I'm the Executive Director of our Wisconsin Revolution. And I want to add and touch on something that Sam said that I think is really, really important to me personally. And that's that I think in many ways, data centers represent a perfect microcosm for everything that's wrong with America economically. Socialize the costs, privatize the profits, exploit the people every step of the way, right? This isn't right versus left, this is the top versus the bottom. This is the rich versus the rest of us. The interests of the rich, stealing and hoarding all of our resources so that the rest of us can suffer. The biggest, richest, most powerful corporations on the entire fresh water hoard our energy, cost of power for all of us, in order to harvest and eventually sell our personal data and train their AI programs to eventually take our jobs.
Shame!
This is societal suicide. This is cataclysm. I do not want to be hyperbolic, but this quite literally could end every aspect of our community as we know it. We are actively allowing big tech corporations to destroy our country, and we are paying for it, both literally and metaphorically. The only people, I repeat, the only people who benefit from these monstrosities are the corporate elite and the rich and powerful oligarchs that control every aspect of our lives. Selling our communities to corruption will devastate Wisconsin. Get these data centers out of our state. Let's start focusing on building people power and using our money to benefit our communities. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, we gotta get people over profit. You wanna say some more? You're second. We got him, and then we'll go next. You're up if you want it.
You've been reading those Marx books I sent you.
How we doing, y'all? Yeah! Great to see everybody out. I know it's 12 o'clock on a Thursday, so great to see such a solid turnout and everything. So give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah. My name's Sam. I'm with the Party for Socialism and Liberation here in Madison. I'm a resident in Janesville, where they are currently in talks and in the process of trying to possibly put a data center at the old GM Jacko site. If you guys are familiar. Shame. I just wanted to kind of touch on that kind of story and the example and the demonstration of actual people power and everything. And I know it happened in Port Washington too, so I want to give a shout out to Port Washington. Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, so basically, right, they initially started this whole conversation and everything without even remotely involving the people to start. And it only took us asking and demanding information that is rightful that we know, and it took constant demanding of that for them to release any kind of information. And they put out all these sales that tried to give us little bits of information, very often misleading information that was just for show. It was all for show. It was fake participation. It never truly involved the people. It never made any type of difference. It didn't give us a say. And because our city council members failed to do their job of representing the people had to go out and take matters into their own hands. And we organized the petition to put up an ordinance, to adopt an ordinance where we have a say in massive projects at that GM Jacko site. And they had to say, they like to say it's stifling development, it's going to hamper development all across Janesville, which is not true. It is specifically for the GM Jacko site. So I want to put an end to that notion right now. And we took matters into our hands. The people of Janesville showed out and got 4,600 plus signatures. That's right, in 60 days, no less. And during the holiday season and freezing cold temperatures, the people came out and showed out and really did amazing and showed what people power looks like. That's right. And not only did our city council members and our city leaders look at that and say, essentially they came out with a legal memo, which was a legal tantrum, if I might add, that this was going against the Fifth Amendment and that it was unconstitutional and illegal. Because God forbid the people want to say in what happens in their community. Shame on those council members. Shame on those city leaders.
Shame.
And shame for anybody that does not let the people have a say and let them participate in society.
That's right.
And last Monday, we got the City Council to vote on the adoption of the referendum and the petition, and they voted not to adopt it so that we have a say for massive projects at that site, but to put it on the referendum so that we can vote on the referendum, if we can have. It's a partial win. You know, we could have sat back and did absolutely nothing, right? And that would have got us nowhere. But the people got up, they showed out, and showed us what we can really do if we come together and show our true power.
Yeah.
All right, so I just wanted to shine some light on that, and I wanted to shout out everybody that was involved in that process in Janesville, in Port Washington, in Beaver Dam, I know, in all the other cities that they are trying to come over and take over our cities without us having a crumb of a say. Shame on all those data center companies, and shame on everybody that has allowed us to come to that has allowed us to be in this position and having to fight for our rights and not representing us whatsoever.
Shame.
All right, and yeah, that's all I got. So.
I want to say one thing about Janesville real quick. If city leaders in Janesville think they can stall away the people's power, I have bad news for them. They cannot!
That's right.
All right, would you like to speak? I'm Samantha.
Sorry, I was
Hi, my name is Krista Brown. Bear with me because I have a little bit of a story that might sound disconnected, but really it puts a common thread through everything that we're here to fight for. My grandfather, so my 3 children are here, it's their great-grandfather, he's still alive. His childhood farm was on Gammon Road before there was a mall. They then moved, bought other farms. Highway 51 got expanded through DeForest. His brother's farm is gone. Half of the pasture from our family farm is gone. There's soccer fields and highways. The same daughter of the uncle whose farm is gone was one of the women organizing the no data centers in DeForest, spearheading and leading and finding and digging the corruption that was happening, and that is my second cousin. And I don't live in DeForest because I wanted a more rural life, and it's no longer rural there because we continue to develop for companies, not for people and food and animals and the health of the land or us. We're part of that. I live in Viroqua, and this is happening everywhere in connected forms like cell towers, and right now near where I live in Viroqua, in Vernon County and Crawford County, we are fighting transmission lines. And I stood up and I said, where's this power going? And they said, we actually don't know. So I looked at the map and I thought, it's going right to these data centers. This isn't okay. We are all connected in this fight, and while I don't currently have a data center knocking on the door of Viroqua, we're not far off, and we're all interconnected in saying this isn't acceptable. I'm running to be the mayor of Viroqua, and I'm putting my energy behind making sure that we're not building power for data, we're building staying power for people. That's my platform. I'm working on housing. I'm working on lively streets and parks where we spend our time, the places we share. I'm working on quality services and work that is worthy. That's what we're working on. And I'm here because I value the connection that they want us to think is far apart, or they're bringing us data centers so we can stay connected. It's not real. It's not true. And also, I'm a designer, and it's a poor design. Like, if we're gonna do this, we can do so much better. So, like, find somewhere colder. So, I'm not for it, but that's just like one way. All right, that's all I have to say, and I'm glad to be in company of people who understand this, and I hope that we can keep building momentum to support people and not companies and bigger organizations. So keep up the good fight.
Thank you, Krista. Thank you. All right. Would anybody else? We will have to get headed in real quick, but we got about 3 minutes for anybody to speak, and then we're gonna have some chance.
This thing working? How y'all feeling? My name's Brian Pfeiffer, co-founder of Wisconsin Bail Out the People movement. We just want to say we're in total solidarity with you here today. It's a question of priorities, right? Our signs today say healthcare and schools, not data centers. Folks have been talking about schools and healthcare and jobs. These are the priorities that we need. But we live in a system of capitalism that is absolute madness. We're ready to pave over the oceans and the lakes for profit, and we say, hell no, we're not going to accept this. So we're here today in solidarity with you all, and also we know it's very courageous and brave to take on billion-dollar corporations. And also I want to say that as a union member, I oppose data centers. There's many union members that can be building many things that we need, like schools, like healthcare, bridges, a lot of event in Sheboygan and Manitowoc on April 23rd and 24th. We're going to make the connections between ICE and the data centers. We're living in a world today where all the connections are intertwined, right? When you look at the police, we see Palestine and all relationships. When we see data centers, we see how they're connected to ICE. And all the finance capital and all the corporations that you all been researching are all intimately intertwined together. They need the banks, they need finance capital. All that's tied together with Home Depot, the products, the concrete, all of that. So we're going to have this event and we're going to expose these contradictions and continue to be in solidarity with the community. So you can check down at Wisconsin Bail Out the People movement. We have been posting all of your events already, and we're in solidarity with you. I personally grew up in Manitowoc County, right on Lake Michigan, and that lake is a part of my spirit. And also, we give a shout out today. There's a saying, during the Standing Rock actions that took place against the pipelines, that water is life. And this is indigenous land. They can get the hell off indigenous land, these capitalist corporations, and we're going to build a better world for our children for the 7 generations. Solidarity forever.
All right. As I said, we got the rest of our little thing today. We got to be a little bit loud for the people inside, because they got beeswax in their ears. Or maybe they got money stuffed in there, I don't know. But we got to get inside. We're going to go. We're going to have a little press conference. We're going to speak strongly about why we oppose data centers. And then we're going to have an informational panel so that people can learn. Does that sound good? Yeah. All right, let's keep her moving, as Charlie Barron says. He's a fan favorite, ain't he? Yeah. Oh, take him back to a car. Okay, I can do that. Sorry. All right, are we ready to go? We got a lot of people in. Are we ready to go?
Yeah, ready to go.
I say, what do we want? No data center.
All right, man. Have a good day.
What do we want?
No data center.
What do we want?
No.
What do we want?
No data center.
What do we want?
No.
What do we want?
No data.
When do we want it?
No.
What do we want?
No data center.
When do we want it?
No.
And if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
you know, if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
if we don't get it,
Shut it down.
while we're walking in, I do want to say one last thing. It might be a little bit awkward. We had a rally of we had a meeting of 200 people in Fort Washington last night. We need all 200 of those people on the ground in Port Washington to gather petition signatures. If you're from DeForest, if you're from Janesville, you're probably an expert if you're from Janesville. If you're from Beaver Dam, if you're from Caledonia, we need you in Port Washington right now. We cannot let that 2,000-acre data center get up and get moving, because if it does, we're all done for. Lake Michigan, done for if we let that happen. So we need everybody, all hands on deck, in Port Washington to help out.
This weekend.
This weekend, this Saturday, this Sunday, get to Port Washington. Carrie, do you want to come and say the address?
902 North Wisconsin Street.
902 North Wisconsin Street. Make sure you're there. Make sure you have people with you ready to get signatures and ready to get the data center out of Port Washington. Woo! I'm not sure I can use this inside, so I'm just going to be loud. We're going to make our way up to the room. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and you want to shut that off.
The door first. The door says no data center.
That sounds like
We got everybody in? Everybody's in. That's in session. We'll hear how we feel about data centers. Ain't that right?
Yeah. No data centers! 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 No data centers!
All right, no data centers. We're gonna change up. We're going Dairyland, not Dataland. Very ironic that there's a robotics conference right in this city. We're not anti-techno. We're anti-big tech corporations. Ain't that right?
Yeah!
People over profits.
People over profits!
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 Also, don't need to take the elevator. I can recommend that. Building walk. Building wall. And it's warm now. All right. We're gonna do Dairyland, not Dataland. How does that sound? Yeah. Dairyland, not Dataland.
Dairyland, not Dataland!
Dairyland, not Dataland.
Dairyland, not Dataland!
Dairyland, not Dataland.
Dairyland, not Dataland!
Dairyland, not Dataland.
Dairyland!
All right, one more place here. We can do it. Y'all probably wish I wasn't. Dairyland, not Dataland.
Dairyland, not Dataland!
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 Oh, Quinn, look at you! Woo-hoo! Gordo.
We went to Northeast. We need to go to Southeast. I apologize. Southeast is the other side.
8 more flights of stairs.
I'm stupid. You blame me.
It's a confusing moment.
Yeah, I'm lost.
It's like this is Final Fantasy.
Only 8 more flights of
Okay,
stairs.
very funny, Jonathan. We're all laughing. Where's the stage?
This place is amazing.
Everything looks the same.
I did! My hip really hurts now.
Once I went to like get to the outside. This is like 4-4 up. It feels like, I don't know. I think August.
Next train all the time. Dairyland, not Dataland.
Dairyland, not Dataland! Not Dataland! Dairyland, not Dataland! Dairyland, not Dataland! Dairyland, not Dataland! Woo!
Great job, everyone. take a seat, get chill, take it easy.
I used to be talking to him.
I not about that, but you wanna mics here if you wanna lay them down here. I've been trying to turn off that.
Well, this is a lot better protest here. Don't need the handle on it.
Don't need what?
Don't need the handle on it.
What brings you out? You
No, I'm from around.
Oh yeah. Data center going, didn't it?
No, but I know all about the Fort Washington one. I'm retired.
Working together, coming together,
But,
realize their entities of interest, and that's an
I'm
land or water, electricity for years to come, not just to give a big tax.
I've automated airplanes, automation, and I know that this is just going to do nothing but steal jobs.
AI is here, yeah, of course,
Not
like,
only is it
but it should be used to
lower end white collar jobs,
and not to steal
but a lot
jobs.
of
AI is used to we have
Trump says that bringing manufacturing back. He said nothing about using and just in general. I think we have corrupt, unconstitutional in every fucking term.
Were you in Fort Washington last night?
No.
There was a pretty cool event there. I don't know if you heard about that. Have you heard of Charlie Barron's, the comedian?
Yeah.
He was there.
I've seen their podcast.
Yeah. He was there with some of the people, the locals. There were like 200 and some people there. Wow. It was pretty big. Talking about data centers.
Yeah, I know the one in Fort Washington. So either they need 800 acres to put either they need 800 acres to put up 4 nuclear power plants.
To power it?
To power it, yeah. I know up by Palmyra, there was all sorts of land being annexed there for a huge solar farm, which is only going to that data center for Fort Washington. Yeah, I mean, just the power requirement.
Yeah, power makes no sense.
I know they claim that they're going to be using closed-loop cooling systems, but that closed-loop cooling system have to have.
Let's keep it. Thanks everyone for coming again. Thanks for making the trek up the stairs. This is the hottest day. I think this is the hottest it's been in like a month. And I'm sure that has nothing to do with climate change. I'm sure it has absolutely nothing to do with all of the waste energy, all of We Energy's gas plants, or anything like that. And if we were in charge, if the people were in charge of society, we'd be building clean energy, we'd be putting solar panels on a rooftop in every household in Madison, and every household in Milwaukee, and sending clean energy back to the grid, instead of paying for more redundant and stranded infrastructure in Wisconsin. We'd be putting these clean energy resources on every household in the state. That's right. Solar's got terrible rap. I think farmers think like solar's gonna, they're gonna put solar field farms on their land. But that is a choice of We Energies to put it in farm fields. They could put it right on top of every house in the north side of Wisconsin and the west side of Mass. A sustainable energy future for all, not just for big tech. So again, my name is Samantha Dukas. I'm with the Party for Socialism and Liberation. I've been helping out Great Lakes Neighbors United in Port Washington. Give them a round of a hand. I'm here to talk on behalf and for all of the data center fights across the state. We convened separately in December, 7 cities having protests against data centers, where unfortunately one of our own was arrested. And shame on the Port Washington police for that.
Shame!
Dropped the charges yesterday.
That's right.
So we have a few speakers. I want to thank the Socialist Caucus. I want to thank Ryan Clancy, Darren Madison, Rep. Hong. I want to thank Senator Larson. I want to thank everyone for coming and speaking. We're going to have a few more speakers. I'm just the first. To start, I want to start with a chant. I like to bring the energy. If you're at the rally, you know we're about energy. And it'll be a little bit louder in this room when we go for it. So everyone, come and say it with me. Dairyland, not data land.
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 Woo! That's right. That's right. We're starting with this chant to remind every single Wisconsinite, every state legislator, every municipal official, and everyone in between what we're really about. We're not the big tech state. We're not the AI state. We're hardworking, Midwest kind of nice people.
That's right.
No amount of Silicon Valley money can ever take that away from us. That's why we got folks from Menominee here today. Shout out Blaine. From Janesville, shout out Rita, shout out Sam. From Port Washington, Christine and Carrie. And from DeForest, I see you too. Where'd you go? DeForest. DeForest. No. No. They were here. They were on the whatever. That's why we descended on this building, to remind these legislators who they are, who Wisconsin is, because they seem to have forgotten. It's us. It's the people. We're the real power. I don't want to hear anything Robin Voss has to say. I don't want to hear anything that the other legislators who allow these data centers to take over our state have to say. We run it. And what every one of us, everyone around the state is saying, we want to say. We want referendums in every city that has a data center proposal. It's our state. And you better hear it. The billionaire greed has gone too far, and now they're asking for Wisconsin's water, land, and energy. And we're not going to give it to them. No. The people, as I said, are the real power in this state. And through us, anything is possible. DeForest, Caledonia already stopped their data centers. Hand it up. I don't want to hear any mayor, any city manager saying it's too late. It's not too late to make the right choice. It's not too late to work with the power of the people.
That's right.
UPS, Vantage, OpenAI, Oracle, it does not matter. This is for us, not for them. And if you think, I know everybody in this room doesn't think that beating a data center is out of reach. But you know what else is not out of reach? A statewide moratorium on data center construction. 6 other states, including New York, are already considering it. And I'm proud to be with the legislators who have proposed it for us in Wisconsin. I'm proud to be with the people who are actually standing up for us. who are actually meeting the people's demands in the state. If that's attainable, I know for a fact that a better world is attainable. A socialist world is attainable. One where we all take care of the environment. One where we all wield the power to help every single member of our community, no matter what. Just as these kind folks here have heeded the call, I want everyone in this room, including the cameras, to heed another call. It's time for popular control of AI. It's up to people to decide what happens with AI. It doesn't belong to big tech. It doesn't belong to Jeff Bezos. It's to make people's lives better. Not to make billions for you. Some of the members of the state legislature already walked down the primrose path of sales and use tax exemptions, TID exceptions, and tax base increases only on net new construction. So now it's our responsibility, the people's responsibility, to walk the righteous path, to take these tax giveaways away from big tech, to take our towns back from these hostile takeovers that are being attempted by these big tech corporations. Woo! And again, I want to commend Senator Larson, thank you, Rep. Madison, Rep. Hong, Ryan Clancy.
Rep. Phelps is here too.
Rep. Phelps, thank you. For actually leading this moment. The requirement for referendums in particular is one that I've seen echoed across the state. Some of the mayors, some of the city councilors, and especially not the M7 and the Milwaukee Area Chamber of Commerce, the MMAC, they don't like that people get to decide, that people are deciding development. But it's always been the people's choice. It's always been our choice. So M7, MMAC, drop your lawsuit on Port Washington. Let Port Washington decide what they're going to get people to. It's the people's demand. I know the people in Madison are used to hearing from people in Port Washington. They may think that's backwater, that's not nowhere near here. But we're here today to say you better drop your lawsuit and you better give the people a say. This is an existential fight for our futures, for our water, our climate, our health, and our state's fiscal future. It's time to invest in Wisconsin. Do not buy the fake promises of big tech, the fake lies of jobs, the fake lies of closed-loop systems. And that message goes double, not just for everybody, every state legislator who's not already in this room. It goes double for the city administrator of these towns, particularly in Janesville. It goes double for the mayor of Port Washington. And every city municipal official who isn't already on board with popular control of AI. Is anybody in this room going to stop fighting? No. Is anybody in this room going to stop struggling against these data centers? No. Should data centers companies think we're going away? No. Hell no. Hell no. And if you believe that, again, I'm going to say this one more time, and I want this all over Madison media because we need people from Madison there too. Yep. You better get to Port Washington to help circulate that petition, to help get people who actually care about Port Washington back in the driver's seat. All right. I appreciate y'all. We have a few more speakers. I'm going to welcome up William Walter, unless Senator Larson, did you have to speak really quick?
Legislators have to get to the floor, so Chris and Fran, you've got like 60 seconds each.
Oh, I spoke for too long.
Okay. Thank you all so much for being here today. It's an honor to have introduced this legislation with my colleagues. I'll be brief. This is about community power and returning community control to folks all across the state. I am so incredibly grateful because I have not seen this type of bipartisan opposition to corporate control. I have not seen this type of bipartisan support for ensuring that we protect our natural resources. Our natural resources are not for sale. Our health is not for sale. Our shared future depends on all of us fighting right now to ensure that we are holding AI data centers accountable, that we make sure that we're protecting our natural resources and our children's health as well. And again, organizing works, organizing matters. Never stop organizing.
It's a very hard act to follow. I thought the rally was going to be outside, and then people were going to be at a serene press conference. But man, the energy is high. So thank you for bringing it. Thanks to everybody who's turning up today and speaking out. There has been a deliberate breakdown of civic participation and division across the board. And talking about data centers in that regard, you end up talking about all of it. There has been an attempt to just try and tell people you can't stop big tech, you can't stop what's happening, you don't really have a voice, you're going to be ignored on this, your leaders aren't going to be listening to you. In fact, the local community has already made up a mind. And every door that has been slammed in your face, you have deliberately kicked back open, and I appreciate that. So I introduced a piece of legislation today in conjunction with other legislators who are up here to say we are putting a pause on these data centers moving forward in our state. That we are putting forward a moratorium until all of the questions that you have been asking your local mayors, you have been asking your local legislators, you have been asking these data centers, that all of those are actually answered before we move forward. There are those who say, well, AI is coming, you can't get in the way of it. You don't have a say in this. And the reality is we do. We have a strong democracy. We have strong civic participation. And if we are not at the table, then there should not be AI data centers taking over our landscape from down in Kenosha to up to Port Washington to De Pere to DeForest, everywhere in between. Because they think they can divide us apart. The reasons for being opposed to this are as vast and as different as the people within our state, but we're all united to say that you're going to have to answer all of these questions before you move forward, because we demand it. We are not going to be a part of a bubble when it blows up. We are going to make sure that any development that happens within our borders is with us at the table and respects our breathable air. It respects our drinkable water. It respects our livable land. It respects our right to be able to continue to have jobs and not be replaced by artificial intelligence. It demands that we make sure people are paid a living wage, and we do not double down on fossil fuel infrastructure for decades for the sake of trying to be fashionable with the AI tech bubble. So thank you for being so inspiring. And thank you, continue to keep pushing and not giving up. We are a broad coalition and only continuing to grow, and the more questions that get answered, the more people are joining onto our side. So let's keep it up. Thank you, guys.
All right, looks like media has to get to the floor, but we're going to have a couple more speakers, and then we're going to hop right into the panel. I know we're already running over time, but we're going to have William from Our Wisconsin Revolution and Fight the Oligarchy Tour speak. And then we're going to have Sarah from Beaver Dam speak. Is that cool? Everybody cool with that?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is William Walter. I'm the Executive Director of Our Wisconsin Revolution, and I'm representing the Fighting Oligarchy Coalition. And I think, as I mentioned at the rally earlier, in the United States right now, primarily economically, it's not right versus left. It's off the traditional binary spectrum of politics. This is the rich versus the rest of us. This is the top versus the bottom. This is the interest of the ultra wealthy, the biggest, most powerful corporations in the entire country versus everybody else, right? These data centers, there's a reason they're coming to Wisconsin, right? We're on the Great Lakes. It's the largest source of fresh water in the entire world. They want to use our public tax dollars so they can build these behemoth facilities that will steal our fresh water, hoard our energy, which is going to jack up the cost of power for everybody, Also, they can harness and eventually sell our personal data and train their AI programs to eventually take our jobs. This is economic suicide. This is cataclysm. This is potentially the end of everything that we know that makes our communities great here in Wisconsin and across the United States. And in a lot of ways, it's just a repeat of the battles that our parents and grandparents and great-grandparents fought, right? They're trying to socialize the costs so they can privatize the profits while exploiting the people every step of the way. That is unacceptable. And we, the people, cannot allow ourselves to have to pay for these monstrosities, both literally and metaphorically, as they swoop into our communities to eat up all of our resources. The ultra-rich will continue to do this. They will continue to hoard more and more and more while the rest of us fall further and further behind. And unless we stand up to this now and say, no, not in our community, not in our state, not in our country, it's only going to get worse from here. So it's important to continue to build up these numbers. The only advantage we have over the ultra-rich and powerful is each other, right? We're never going to out-fundraise or out-network them. It's mathematically impossible. 6 men have more wealth than the bottom 50% of all Americans combined. We can out-organize them and we can outwork them, because we outnumber them 1,000,000 to 1. So we need to start getting together, using our people power, using our numbers to advance causes that help us here in our communities, and we're gonna win this fight. Thank you so much.
Hello, thank you everybody for being here. My name is Sarah Zarling, and I've been a social and environmental justice advocate for the past 15 years. I started in big ag, big pharma, and big food, and then 11 years ago I saw my first oil train, and then that put me down the rabbit hole of all things cradle to the grave of fossil fuel extraction, production, and transport, and then petrochemicals, and so data centers are just my latest endeavor. And the common thread between all those things is that over citizens for their own personal gain. And I just really take very big issue with that. So, let's see, I'm kind of going a combination of looking at my notes and going off the cuff here. I really feel like this issue right now that we're being faced with these data centers it sort of demonstrates the worst of human nature, in that we're wired, unfortunately, to go after the next big new shiny thing, and we've got to have it, and we've got to have it now. And I really feel like that's what's happening with the scale of all these data center proposals that are happening, not only just around our state, but around the country. I do want to make sure to take the opportunity to illustrate the difference between regular data centers that we've always had, and then the newer, anyway, in the big picture, the AI hyperscale data centers. They are two very different things. And so really I feel our collective concern here is over these hyperscale AI data centers and the impacts that they have, not to just the environment, but also to communities and to residents. I really feel like, so I've been on the ground in Beaver Dam mostly, and I'm frustrated because that town is the one that has been ignored the most, and I feel like there's so much that has happened there in terms of secrecy, and that the project was approved and ground was broken before residents even knew what happened, and many people still don't. And then now there's a second proposal, and so that's one of the things we need to be vigilant about. That if there's a community with a data center proposal and one gets approved, like in Port Washington or in Mount Pleasant, it just opens the door for more. And so that's very dangerous. I feel like it's important to know that the people in Port Washington and Beaver Dam, where there is construction already, and particularly like the newer construction, I don't want to speak for Mount Pleasant because I haven't been there as much, but the residents who live nearest the construction are experiencing real problems. They are experiencing horrible upheaval to their lives, destruction to their property, loss of sleep. It's not just the environmental impacts of these data centers, it's also the impacts to residents. And then there's also the issue of the TIDs and the financing, and how these are being proposed in communities that do not have the financial security to cushion the blow. When the AI So one of these days, we won't need these big AI data centers, and then now these communities are gonna be left holding the bag with these giant empty buildings and nothing to do with them. So I just really feel like, from my own personal standpoint, I appreciate the new legislation that's been passed because Senator Larson actually took a little bit of what I was gonna say here, so I just wanna move to support it, that I feel like we need to, instead of being ready, fire, aim about this, we need to take a step back and we need to just reevaluate, and I do support the moratorium because it's very vital with the the far-reaching impacts and just how it forever scars communities and the landscape. You can't undo that stuff once it's done or once it starts. And so, you know, being responsible and mindful and taking a step back and making sure that if we are going to have these data centers, that they're built in a place that can absorb the blow if the developer decides to walk away or if it's no longer needed. And then also, we need to make sure that we are protecting residents with community benefits agreements. And then I also feel like having citizen advisory boards would be really important as well because, you know, the legislation that's being proposed, it's wonderful and I'm thankful for it, but, you know, to anybody who's been doing this for a long time, we know that there are some holes in it and some things that could be done a little bit better to try and prevent having to pass new legislation or prevent further problems down the road. So I just really feel like this is a very good opportunity to learn to maybe try and come away from these sort of bad human habits that we have of rushing to the finish line to do the next big shiny thing, and instead, you know, take that step back and be more mindful. And then, yes, remembering that it doesn't matter if it's this issue or other issues, and it doesn't matter which end of the spectrum or which part of the spectrum politically we're on, that at the end of the day, we're all just trying to take care of our families and live our lives, right? And so coming together, I love what Rep. Hong said about how this has been a wonderful demonstration of people coming together across the political aisle. I think that's really important. So everybody to move forward, trying to exercise solidarity and mindfulness and intention. And I guess that's all I have, so thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We're going to move into the panel. Panelists, you know who you are. Please come up and take a seat at the nice big table. Christine, Prescott, Lena, and Amy. We had a last-minute cancellation. We were supposed to have Mike, but his family is having an emergency, so there's a family medical emergency, so he couldn't make it. And if you're outside, there are some seats over here on the right, as well as a couple on the left. We'd love to welcome you to sit down and not clutter in the doorway. And this is a committee room, so I feel really, really strange sitting at the head of this table.
The moderator.
All right.
And I guess really quickly, I want to thank everyone. Now that we're in the more somber moment, I see my divorce people finally made it. I gave you multiple shout outs and you weren't here to take them. Trisha, Winona, Nancy. Trisha, Winona, Nancy, thank you for coming. So yeah, we're in the easier section of the day. We're going to go for, we'll have until 2:30 here. I know some staffers are still with us. I appreciate that, especially when there's session going on. But we're going to sit and we're going to talk data centers. So first, let's go around the table. and take a second to introduce yourselves and maybe give what you believe is the single greatest issue in your mind with data centers. So if Christine, you'd be willing to start?
Sure. Yeah, so my name is Christine Lejeune. I'm here from the Port Washington group. So we have been working adamantly over the past months to shed light on what's been going on with our AI hyperscale data center development. You may have heard about us further in the news and background. So yeah, we have a number of issues that we're really concerned about. But of course, I think Prescott can probably elaborate a little bit more on this. One of our data centers, so that's one of the first things that is quite concerning about what will actually happen with regards to the tax levy and at the state level incompatibility there. And I know again, I think Prescott may elaborate on that. He's our TID expert. But yeah, so that was again, concerning for both Beaver Dam and Port Washington with the raising of the 12% cap for the TID for Port Washington. Another issue, so that's the financial aspect, but the other aspect that we're highly concerned about, and if you watched or attended our event last night in Port Washington, you'll know that we have major issues concerning the environment and also human health associated with that. We heard a little bit more from some of our experts about the concerns regarding that. And as Samantha already mentioned, due to construction, and as Sarah also mentioned, due to construction, people are really experiencing the effects already of the health effects of some of the construction dust, sleepless nights, light pollution, and there are other concerns as well once it's built. So those are kind of the top issues for us.
I'm Prescott Balch. I'm a recently retired technology executive who actually likes data centers. I just like them in the right place. I had one show up in my backyard, which I thought was the wrong place, and successfully fought it off. I'm in Caledonia, if you follow that story. Since then, since defeating that, I've been traveling the upper Midwest trying to help other communities. Because what I see going on is just essentially terrible decision making. And I'm trying to level the information playing field. I don't want to rule out that some community might think it's the right thing to do, go to town. But if you're making a decision based on too little information, you might come to an agreement with the rest of your village board, but it might not be the right decision. So I think there are lots of risks associated with data centers, and they're largely financial and technology risks. And I want to educate as many people as possible about that. I don't care if you're progressive or conservative or somewhere in between. It's full information that we need to be making decisions based on, and that's what I'm trying to do. And the more I look into different proposals, the more trouble I see, and the more problems I see, and hopefully those problems that I see can help the next community understand. I have yet to find a small community for which a data center proposal would be a good idea. They are potentially financially ruinous to a small community, and I just don't see that changing. So anyway, we'll get into the details, I'm sure, in the discussion.
Hi, everybody. I'm Amy Barrio, Communications Director with Clean Wisconsin. Clean Wisconsin is the oldest and largest environmental advocacy group in the state. We believe that every person has the right to clean air to breathe, safe water to drink, and a healthy, safe environment to live in. And that's where our interest in data centers lie, because when we talk about AI data centers, we try to make people understand that these are not normal developments. Our analysis shows that a 1 gigawatt AI data center will use as much energy as 1 million Wisconsin homes. We only have 2.8 million housing units in the whole state. So as these proposals come in one after another, we're trying to get the word out about what this means for our energy systems and for our precious water resources. We live in the center of beautiful Great Lakes, the most important freshwater system on the planet. And we can't forget that. We have a lot of desirable things for tech companies here in Wisconsin, and we need to be ready to protect them. So one thing we're trying to get the word out about is the connection between massive scale energy use and water withdrawals in the state. So energy production is responsible for more than 70% of the water withdrawals in Wisconsin. When you have AI data centers coming into the state, they're going to use more energy than the largest of our cities, more energy than an entire county, and then fossil fuel burning power plants built to serve those needs. You're going to see an enormous water footprint from those AI data centers that's happening off of the data center property. You're going to see what we're already seeing in Wisconsin already, which are huge gas burning power plants being built to serve the needs of data centers, like the Mount Pleasant data center that came with a $2 billion gas plant build out. So the harms are already happening in Wisconsin, and Clean Wisconsin is dedicated to not only preventing future harms, but ensuring that any tech companies that are currently building in Wisconsin pay for any harms they create.
Hi everyone, I'm Angelina Ook with the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and I've been organizing in Janesville against the data center that the city staff is trying to put at the old GM Jacko site. That is right in the center of the south side of Janesville, where very high poverty. We just represented a petition to put an ordinance on the GM Jacko site for projects over $450 million for residents to have a say on what goes on that land, instead of having 7 city council members decide what is best for the residents.
Not even 7, more like 4.
4.
4 out of 7 have taken it into their own hands and decided that their say matters more than the entire south side of Janesville, which is a real shame. But without further ado, let's hop into our questions. This is a bit more of an untraditional panel. We have questions that I'm going to ask as moderator, and then we'll have questions that everybody in the room can ask. We'll have time for that at the end. But my first question, and feel free, whoever feels most inclined to answer. So at this point, we've all heard the promises of jobs. We've all heard that it's going to use Special Advantage is proud of saying they're using clean energy to power their data center. And all of them purport to bring so much benefit to the towns that their respective projects are planned for. But I wanted to get your sense of these promises. In your opinion, what's the biggest myth about data center benefits that are perpetuated either online or by local officials or by these data center companies themselves? So we're doing some myth and fact busting.
I'll start, but I'm going to have 2.
Okay.
Tied for first place. The first one is the economic benefits. They are vastly overstated. Data centers are uniquely bad at long-term financial benefit. They employ no people. They don't attract other businesses. Yes, they'll generate lots of tax revenue, but if you're looking for data centers and spending city money to help facilitate their building, you're not going to get that money back. Because there are no people, and then where there are no people, attracted for employment or other business finding out, because we're tricking elected officials into believing that there's some attractive properties to a data center. There just aren't. So that's one. The second one is the tax benefit. And this is the big rabbit hole that I've been down for the last several months. But the manner in which the 3 active projects have been financed by the municipalities, there is not only no tax benefit to the residents, there's tax harm to the residents. And nobody understands that, except me. It drives me crazy. I'm trying to explain it to as many people as I can, but the people that live in those communities, and even in the counties surrounding those communities, their taxes are going to go up as a result of these data centers. I can prove it with the math if you give me the time to do it. So anybody that wants to take me up on that offer, give me a shout.
Can you call Kevin later up?
Absolutely. In fact, I've managed to get an elected or a village, a city official in Beaver Dam in this case, to admit out loud to his own residents, yes, we're going to have to raise taxes on them. And our mutual friends in Port Washington got the mayor to essentially say the same thing. Yes, we have a problem and we need legislative change to fix it. Well, that probably should have been done before we approved the damn deal. So those are my tied for first.
My biggest one is the number of jobs that these data centers are supposed to be making for everyone. In Janesville, they're saying that there will be about 600 permanent jobs for residents in Janesville to, take hold of. But we do know that we've seen nationwide that these data centers employ very few, and they don't even come from the local area. They are outsourced from other states. They are outsourced from other even industries, because data centers are just new and popping up now, rushing to become like the biggest, baddest one. For example, in the one in Texas, is that called Stargate? The biggest one, yes. We see like there are electrical workers from California driving down and staying, living around the data center that they're building on. And these are young, impressionable, young electricians on that data center, knowing the repercussions that they have to the surrounding community.
I think one of the myths that is really interesting is that these data centers are going to be powered by clean energy. Because what we're really seeing, as I mentioned, is the opposite of that. We're seeing not only an enormous build out of a methane burning power plant, 3 of them to support the Microsoft data center. We're seeing a whole queue of gas plant proposals being rushed to the PSC. We're seeing coal plant retirements being delayed. So I think tech companies can say all they want that this is going to be met with clean energy, never really defining what they mean by clean energy, by the way. But the reality on the ground is, if we're not extremely careful, and if we don't really speak up, we're going to end up with gas plants burning methane in communities across this state. It's important to understand that methane has 80 times the warming potential of carbon over a 20-year time span. So it's devastating for our climate goals, not to mention the long list of toxic chemicals that get released into communities where those data centers operate. And even if a data center does manage to power itself with clean energy solar, many of them have hundreds of diesel burning generators on site. And that is so irresponsible. That one Microsoft data center with 229 industrial-sized diesel burning generators on site is not anything anybody wants to live next door to.
Yeah, and I'll actually second that. Sorry, that was actually one of my points as well. That's one of the highest concerns that we are having as well in Port Washington. There seems to be an incompatibility with the DNR report that was released about the amount of clean energy compared to what, in our case, Vantage is claiming that they will have, 70% clean energy. So we're quite concerned about that. Also, the methane gas issue is a deep concern for our plant. That could, the data center, that could actually be something that's coming to town because there really aren't enough electrons being generated in Wisconsin to power this data center in its multiple phases. And so, what is on the other end of the transmission line, except, real power generation, from somewhere else, if at all, where, concerning because there isn't really enough generation capacity to fill the load, and we're highly concerned about that, and concerned that, once that becomes clear that we're going to see something gas generation as well in our situation. And the other myth that we've been also working with is the claims for jobs as well. So, people have been told we're going to have 300 plus permanent jobs But if you look at what's happening in Virginia with the number of people, working at these data centers, that this wouldn't be the case. Many of these jobs will be remote, and even the, construction jobs are just, temporary. Even Oracle themselves have stated that, they've had to postpone construction of other data center sites because they simply don't have enough manpower. There is actually a lack of jobs, and, these jobs it's not that these jobs are desperately needed to be generated, so, yeah.
Yeah, and I kind of want to merge maybe some of what Prescott said with the points that you made, Lena and Christine. The sort of deal in the past, and I think Prescott, you said this a lot, like the deal in the past was, we'll give you tax deferrals, we'll give you tax benefits if you bring stable long-term jobs to our community. That was not explicit, but the agreement that was the rationale, right, between, private industry and municipalities. Now we're just seeing pure extraction. Like, we're here to use your water, we're here to use your energy, and we're going to maybe provide some jobs temporarily, but even that number of temporary that we provide upfront is going to be quite misleading. I think, Lena, you said 600 jobs in Janesville. How big is this? It's 1,300 acres, right? Or 1,200?
The campus that's been proposed in Janesville is either 8 or 11 buildings. The industry statistic out of Northern Virginia, a very large sample size, is 18 employees per building. So do the math, it ain't 600.
Yeah.
And I'll correct you just a little bit. That trade-off of you bring some economic benefit and we'll give you tax abatement, that was an explicit agreement. It was not implicit. That was the deal. And whether it was written down and committed to is a different story, but there had to be, we used to hold our nose and give tax breaks because we knew that economic benefit to offset the tax breaks was going to show up and pay for that. And for some reason, somehow, between when we started doing it and now, we've eliminated the need to actually bring.
You caught me being too kind to these people coming out. It's very strange, but the jobs numbers obviously don't add up from what we're all saying, and even the jobs numbers between Port Washington, where it's a 2,000 acre facility, 300 permanent jobs. Janesville is less acreage than that, and they're saying 600 jobs. It just doesn't add up. It's such that, these numbers could be, honestly, just completely fabricated. They have no requirement to accurately report job numbers and present them ahead of time for these companies. We're just going to keep getting more false promises. And I think that's incumbent on some of the staff and legislators in this building is to actually start making that happen, so that these proposals can't just be questions, they have to be answers up front. Because I think you see, if we get all the answers up front, no municipality is going to say yes to this. Not a single one. But these companies have been allowed to get off scot-free, essentially, because we don't have any sort of regulation or any sort of protection for our residents or our municipalities. One myth that I don't think we addressed, but I really do want to get to it because I know WIDCC has been up in your grills probably everywhere about this, the data center lobby. The sort of really, really amazing new closed loop systems that that prevent any pollution. They're a silver bullet for all of us. And maybe Amy, if you have some thoughts on the sort of validity of this closed loop system and what they actually offer.
Yeah, well, it's important to note that tech companies are claiming, privileged information on those closed loop systems. So they are not telling us much about those systems other than that they're so great. We know that they use chemicals. We know that there's a good chance they use PFAS, which is a forever chemical that we really already are seeing in waterways across the state. We cannot add to that. We believe that there is the chance for vaporized chemicals around these closed loop systems. And we believe that there is a strong possibility that when these closed loop systems are flushed, that those chemicals will be making their way to Wisconsin's waterways. So I think when we talk about these issues, transparency is so key, because we can't just have these terms thrown at us and then it's like, well, we should be all good, right? I told you we have this closed loop system and everything's great. Use on the driest, hottest days of the year, the times when our water systems are the most stressed, we need that gallon number, not an average of 365 days, but those hot days. And we need to know from our energy utilities how these AI data centers are going to be powered. Because when we talk about water, as I mentioned, if we just look at the footprint at that 2,000 acres potentially in Port Washington, and we don't look at, well, is it gas that's going to be powering these data centers? Is it nuclear, which uses a huge amount of water? But we don't get a full picture of what the water impacts really are. And I can tell that tech companies like to try to push the focus onto the campuses and onto those closed loop systems. They don't want to talk about the energy use and the real relationship between energy use and straining our water resources. And, we talk about myths, and that's one big one. Like this, 1.3 gigawatt data center is not going to use much water, only if you close your eyes to everything that happens around it.
Thank you all. I think that was a great, honestly, I couldn't have started off this panel great. I think we did a great job of cutting through some myths. But I also want to not only cut through the myths, but we also need to shine a light on who is pushing these things. I think the local data center organizers here, we've done a lot to find out, we've done a lot of really hard work to find out who the companies are pushing this in. The legislators in this room will know WIDCC, as I said, has been crawling up and down this building for the past 12 months at the very least. And what is that company if not Alliant and We Energies stacked into one room, into one organization with a couple other people in it? So I want to say and ask from everybody in this room's experience, which companies are really the driving force behind these data centers in your opinion, and maybe why? And do you think these companies are actually interested in benefiting the communities they enter?
I'll start by being an outlier in this group on this question, I'm sure. I have no expectation that, and none of us should, that any of the companies involved have the community's interests at the top of their list. Varying degrees, maybe 11th at best, but I don't care. We live in a capitalist society. The bigger problem, when you say who's pushing on this, I immediately turn to what I talked about last night, which is a series of incentives that have been created by legislation that make the most eager party here your local elected officials. They're driving the bus. Like they're being given big, huge numbers by these tech companies about how much revenue they can get, and they're just drooling over it. And they don't want to hear anything that might be a risk. They just want to believe that number is something that they can get. They're the ones that are deciding, okay, the deal is ready for approval. Go. 6 weeks later, the thing is approved. We're all scrambling around trying to provide the risks, facts, and data to community members and to the elected officials to say, whoa, slow down. Like, risk and reward always go hand in hand. I think the biggest problem is just how eager your elected officials are to say yes, to grab that dollar figure, which has so many risks associated with it, it's irresponsible to approve it in such a quick fashion. And I'll also say, sorry for anybody in the room that's legislatively inclined or employed, I have zero hope that the legislature is going to bail us out here. It's an election year, they won't agree, even if they try, they'll mess it up, just to be really cynical. The one thing they could do, though, that's really simple, is just say, for a deal this big, I don't know how you define that legislatively, for a deal this big, just give the community 3 months from the time you say go, we're ready to approve this, until the time you actually vote. It's happening today as fast as 6 weeks. And random group of people in the community have to meet each other. Nice to meet you. Yeah, let's kick some ass here. They have to put a community group together and fight back. And by the time they even know their names, it's half done. They have no shot. The deck is stacked against the people who want a voice in their own community and want to articulate the risks and their dissatisfaction with just whimsically taking all those risks on behalf of the people. That's the one thing I think the state legislature could do. That's seemingly benign. What the hell, it's 3 months. Just say 3-month delay. Give me a fighting chance. I can convince elected officials that it's too risky.
I want to push back a little bit on some of that. Because I think people really saying what they feel. And I'm also seeing some of the richest companies in the world coming into small communities, armed with a lot of persuasion. And I think that leaders in these small communities are being put in positions that they've never dreamed of being put in, right? And being pushed and prodded in ways that we probably don't even know. So when you talk about, local communities potentially not doing enough or going into these non-disclosure agreements or all these things, that's true. But I think being in a room with an extremely powerful company is a lot. And so when we talk about what's happening in the state of Wisconsin, in a lot of cases, you've got energy utilities that have already made the deals. They've already bought up the land parcels. They've already, been talking to a tech company in Iowa, and now they're saying, oh, come on to Wisconsin. We've got the right property, we've got the transmission, we've got all these things, we've built your power plant. By the time a local community even hears about it, they've already got the land sold and they're ready to go. And so I think these tech companies and our energy utilities are working together in a way that maybe we didn't realize until right this moment. It's important to understand that our energy utilities, for every power plant they build, get a 12% rate of return profit. And that is paid for through all of our energy bills. And so the incentive in Wisconsin to build new power plants is really lucrative for our energy utilities. And that does take legislation to change. We don't have integrated resource planning, which sounds like a really boring word, but it is being able to plan how our energy system works. Having some real accountability with our energy utilities for what they build and why. And that makes Wisconsin extremely vulnerable in this moment, and that can only be fixed at the legislative level. So lawmakers, maybe we've lost faith that they can do things, but if they don't do anything, then we will stay vulnerable. So we absolutely have to be vigilant.
I actually like to agree too with the fact that energy companies are really, working in lockstep to actually push this. From what I've understood is that, energy generation was actually on the decline, right? So they're looking for new customers and kind of pushing these sorts of incentives to bring data centers here to expand customer base to have a higher profit margin. So that is one of the areas that is really, really concerning.
Wow, so much. But I'll try to shorten it. We are seeing in lifetime in Janesville, we caught it on early enough so that the people organized and had that petition pushed through. We worked really hard to collect all of those signatures and stuff, and we caught it early enough so that voices in November could have a say in what they want on that GM checklist site. Whether that will go through or not, whether City Council holds their word to it, we don't know, but now we have to keep educating and organizing the community to push back at City Council before, say, the land is sold to whoever big tech company is coming, either Oracle, Microsoft, OpenAI, Meta, whoever that is.
Yeah, and I think in Janesville, before the city council meetings, aren't they having some of these private interests just come, and instead of just speaking to the city council, they're going to come and speak literally directly to all of the citizens who want to show up to that? I can't imagine that anybody would want to. But who spoke? I know on Monday you had one.
Alliance showed up, and they're having, I think, either 3 or 4 more workshops catered for education.
Washington, we had OE Energies coming to one of our common council meetings, claiming that there would be no cost to us at all for anything. And so, yeah, that's another issue that we have to consider as well.
And I think, like, we don't want to oppose, like, Prescott, you're absolutely right about the incentives that have been set up, the structure that's been set up. The structure is set up in favor of companies like We Energies. It's set up in favor of companies like Microsoft. It's set up in favor and against people getting a say. So it's both the incentives and the companies, because the system drives them. It's a systemic issue. Like, the system is set up for their success and not for people to get a say. And I think that's sort of what all of this data center movement, like when you brought up, like, the petitions have been about, is reclaiming that and trying to, like, take power actually back from where we can, because it's not set up in our favor, but we need it to be. And I think that's where we've been so powerful and strong, and I think that's where we have, like, people like MMAC and people like the Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation sort of running scared and behind the ball, not really expecting us to do what we've done. And I think that's what's been so impressive about the local movement. So I want to, you already mentioned this, Prescott, but a good segue. What is the best thing legislators can do to protect communities against data centers, and how can the people in our audience sort of support the organizing that's been happening on the ground?
Well, definitely, I'll start by, exactly, asking for a pause, working towards a moratorium and actually implementing that. That was one of the things in what Prescott, to kind of go on what Prescott said earlier as well about, a few months pause even, just to give people time. We need to help this right now, because people are not getting information, and the information they're getting is very piecemeal. So we do need a pause, and a moratorium for people to have more information and have time to understand the ramifications of this and to catch up. And that was actually something in the case of Port Washington, for example, on August 19th of last year, ATC came to town with a town hall, and that was the very first time that the large majority of people in the area had an opportunity to understand the larger ramifications of the energy infrastructure that would be used to power the Stargate data complex in the north of our town. And, it was, people were only then starting to put the pieces together about, this data center plus, the energy situation. And later that evening, then, the Common Council on that very same day was passed the developers agreement, right? And so I went to that meeting and I said, wait a second, we only are just finding out this information right now. We have questions about, the costs. I've been told, one thing, you're saying another thing. Wait a second, what about this closed loop system? Like, let us see the specs, what is, and, I requested from our Common Council a pause back then, and they still went ahead in that meeting and just simply passed it. So yes, it's.
I want to clarify. I am not asking for or pushing for a statewide moratorium. Moratoriums need some defined end. We're going to do X, and then the moratorium ends. And I'm only asking for something really simple, which is when you're ready to put the sign in the grass that says free zoning or whatever, and inform the community because you have to by law. At that point, the clock starts ticking and everybody takes a chill pill. And 3 to 4 months later, you can have a vote on it. But you afford the community, whatever time that is, you afford them 3 to 4 months out from that in order to engage and organize and get their point across. That doesn't stop everything in the whole state. It's sort of a comment, and I can talk you out of this. Silly elected officials. The other thing that I would say to what can people do on the ground, this has opened my eyes to be careful who you vote for. Because we shouldn't have to do any of this. We should have elected people that have their heads screwed on straight and don't just dive into an agreement of this magnitude because they're chasing some number that's going to give them construction, that's going to let them raise your taxes. There's something really wrong with that picture if the person you have that you elected is that cavalier about making decisions of that magnitude. And of all the things that I've seen over the last 6 months, I'm horrified by the quality of most elected officials, with some good exceptions, by the way. But we've gotta do a way better job of encouraging people to run and publicizing who those people are that have their registered on straight.
And just to finish up with that point, Scott, as well, that's something, thinking of what can people do, right, is actually get involved, right? We do need people to get more involved in their local government, to remain alert, to understand that, you need to take matters into your hands and really stay on top of things, because a lot of us, admittedly also in Port Washington, had a high level of trust in our local officials. These are people who were born and raised in our communities. We see them on our streets. We kind of had a feeling of goodwill and trust that they were being, proficient caretakers of our community, and not only our city, but also the surrounding areas. And unfortunately, that has proven not to be the case. So I think also really getting involved, also, like we've implemented in Port Washington, a direct legislation petition with our TID petition, that's something that, citizens should take into their own hands and get active. So,
I think, yes, to all those things, local elections matter, getting involved at the local level matters. But the reason why Clean Wisconsin started calling for a pause to data center development in early November, the harms of these AI data centers extend beyond the local communities. So maybe you have a local community that's like, yeah, we're going to vote that in after 3 months of learning about it. Let's say they build the full build out of the 3.5 gigawatt data center in Port Washington. Many communities will be harmed by that. If a coal plant stays open in Milwaukee to serve that data center, because this is We Energy's territory, the people around that gas plant get harmed. So when we're talking about these issues, while there's certainly many harms that could come at the community level, this is a statewide issue. When we're talking about a data center that can use 3 Point Beach nuclear power plants worth of energy for one data center, that can use 3 huge gas-burning power plants worth of energy for one data center, that becomes an issue that requires an enormous amount of state-level planning, that requires, real teeth to our environmental laws and our clean energy laws, so that we minimize the harm. So, I'm not sure I ever thought I would see a bill like the one introduced today that really does call for a pause, that calls for the whole state to figure out what is going on and start planning, because it's a really complicated issue that involves a lot of things. But I'm so glad that it's here, and I hope that the people in this building take it seriously.
and that's something as well that, we've been accused of in Port Washington is having, so-called outside agitators in surrounding communities. Oh, it has nothing to do with you, go away, and, these outside. But as you mentioned, exactly, that can have lasting repercussions for communities in Milwaukee, in the surrounding areas, for the ratepayers, and across the state. So, yes, that is incredibly important too.
And I mean, you bring up the outside agitators thing. I think we were all very agitated